r/AskReddit. What's your best idiot neighbor story? My dad had a neighbor, when he was young, that played his radio loudly all day, even when he wasn't home, or was gone on vacation. Every time he left the house and his radio was still on, my dad would go and trip the circuit breaker to his condo. One day he sees my dad, who was an electrical engineer, and asked him why his breaker kept tripping. Was it faulty wiring? No, my dad explained. The loud radio was probably just putting too much strain on the circuit when left on all the time. My dad suggested he should try turning it down or off when he wasn't home and see if that fixed it. So the man tried it, and surprise surprise, the circuit breaker stopped tripping. He was very thankful to my dad for helping him with that annoying electrical issue. When I was a kid we had this guy living next door who seemed like a nice guy. This is the mid-90s, and he had a neon business, so he was doing pretty well for himself. Then he got together with a crackhead and his house slowly started going to crap literally. At one point his septic system went up, and since they were smoking every dime he made he decided that he was just going to make a cesspit. We live on the east coast in the mid-Atlantic. It gets hot and humid come July. Thanks to this guy, our entire neighborhood smelled like a spotter pot at Midsummer Festival for about 3 months. Fast forward to January, nice and snowy, we come home to our house being broken into. Computer is gone, TV is gone, bunch of movies and meds are gone. Cops show up, and they start dusting and looking around. They go outside, and lo and behold there are tracks going from our side door back to the neighbor's house. Of course, they deny everything, and are at least smart enough not to keep the stuff around after we got home. They were not smart enough to use different names. They pawned everything though. Needless to say, we had new neighbors within a few months of this incident. I live on a 50+ acre New England farm. About 2/3 of it is wooded. After I'd been here for about a year I was walking the boundary stone wall, about 10 feet on my side of the land. From a neighbor's yard I hear a bellowing voice. "You'd better not be on my land." I replied, "I'm not. I'm on my own land." He yells back from somewhere in the trees on his side, "Just so you know, never stop foot on my land." Me, "Okay, we've got a deal. And you stay off mine, okay?" I hear a grunt. Then I ask, "By the way, is this your deer hunting tree stand on my side of the wall?" At which point he exploded, "That stand has been there for 10 years. TLDR, dumb picks a fight for absolutely no reason and ends up agreeing to not trespass on my land and had been trespassing for a decade." Neighbor dug a hole in our side yard because she needed dirt. Both of us live on an acre of land. I watched my across the street neighbor cut his 3/4 acre lawn entirely with an electric weed whacker because he didn't have time to drive a mile to get gas for his lawn mower. We lived next to this big guy in an apartment building. Front doors inside a hallway. Now, he was a nice enough guy, but he was always cleaning a puddle up in front of his apartment every other day. We'd always ask him if everything was alright, and he'd talk some incoherent crap about how he hates management. So, out of curiosity, I asked management when I happened to be in the rental office, and the lady rolls her eyes and says, "This idiot fills up his tub to the brim and sits in the tub. The water, of course, floods his entire apartment and comes out into the hallway, and this idiot has the balls to blame us somehow." I pretty much said, "Geez, sounds rough," and scurried on back to my place. If the tub story is really the truth, this guy must be dumb as rocks. When I lived with my parents, we had a knock at the door one day from our neighbors across the road. They told us a story that resulted in their car getting stolen the night before. Apparently, the wife had seen a strange looking man wandering around the street late at night. He had apparently been looking into car windows which were parked on driveways, including our cars. The next morning, their BMW was gone, including the keys which were hanging by the front door of their house. They assumed the strange man looking in car windows had somehow fished the keys from the house via the litter box. The whole thing sounded very strange. To not call the police when a man is literally peering through car windows on people's driveways was strange enough. Months later, the neighbors got a divorce and sold their house. Turns out, they'd made the whole thing up and had dumped the car for the insurance as they had fallen on hard times. Apparently, their story hadn't held up well, and they were found out. Who broadcasts a story like that? Why make yourself look stupid for not calling the police when seeing a strange man eyeing up cars? Then tell all the neighbors about the man. A neighbor messed up when building a home and put his entire home well within my property. Large piece of land with 2 huge clearings connected to 2 roads, but separated by a large isthmus of trees. I didn't notice because I had taken an 8th-month vacation right after he started building. Huge property. I didn't go around and inspect it often. So I got a real estate lawyer and surveyors to confirm it was in my property. I was going to sell him that clearing for a good price until I went to talk to him, and he was the biggest I had ever met. He essentially told me that he is going to sue me for leading him on despite the fact that I did not know him, nor did I meet him before that day. His wife flipped my girlfriend and I as we were pulling out of their driveway. 4 months later, I file a lawsuit saying he must destroy the property or turn it over to me immediately. It would cost him more to demolish it and return the site to original condition, so he signed the house over to me. He was still out for construction costs. I was living in a single wide with my girlfriend. Then I had brand new 2,600 square feet house with all the hookups for water, electric, and cable for free. Got the land for next to nothing. Sold it for almost 50 times the value. My upstairs neighbors moo at each other very loudly. I used to live in the country and it sounds exactly like a cow, and me and my roommate have no idea why they do it. Nobody believes us until they come over and hear it for themselves. We move back at them sometimes now if they get too loud, and they usually stop for a while. They're just weird people though. Neighbor before I bought the house every day would park, but use a wide sweeping arc to get into his spot over my lawn. After asking many times for him to stop, I put an enormous rock directly in that path on my own property. Lo and behold, he smashed into it hard. After threatening to sue very loudly and forcefully, I informed him I'm a lawyer and he damaged me rock on my property and is liable for all the damages to my brand new rock. He stopped driving on my lawn after. Neighbor has a teenage son, 2 years my junior, who's an idiot. Got a used car for his birthday and decided to paint it neon green. Okay. One night he comes home, drunk, and proceeds to crash into my dad's car parked outside. Decides to hide it, poorly, and the next morning, claims it wasn't him. We probably would have believed him had the damage on my dad's car not had a neon green paint swap to it. Moron. Edit. Have gotten a few replies asking what 2 years my junior means. Basically it means he's 2 years younger than me. I have crazy neighbors. They are actually very nice as neighbors go, but the family is totally dysfunctional. They have 2 grown-up daughters living there, along with their teenage daughters and their boyfriends. One has a kid. There are roughly 10 people living there ranging from 5 to 70. They keep the yard mowed and keep to themselves mostly, but they are insane. I like them actually for 2 reasons. First, they are notorious and crazy around our town, so everyone leaves them alone. So little crime around us. Second, they are entertainment. One morning my aunt was visiting, we are on the front porch, and I'm telling her about all the neighbors. I was telling her a story about how one of the younger granddaughters gets in a fight with her boyfriend at 2 AM on a Tuesday night. They are screaming at each other, walking up and down the street, explaining that something like that happens once a week. Like clockwork, one of the daughters comes out screaming back at someone and gets in her car. Her daughter comes out and tries to stop her from backing out. She grabs a shovel from the back of the truck and starts hitting the front windshield of the car, shattering it. They call the cops. Meanwhile the granddaughter with the shovel calls her BO dad who lives down the road. He picks his daughter up. 2 minutes later the cops show up, but she is gone. I have hundreds like this. Neighbor after someone had attempted to steal his bike and being advised by me to get a better lock, proceeds to save his time by not locking his bike up at all but balancing the lock so that it looked like his bike was locked up unless you actually looked at it for a few seconds. I warned him that someone had already tried to steal his bike and that it wasn't really clever leaving it unlocked like that. He says I promise you I'll lock it up. Why he's promising me anything I have no idea. I was just being neighborly. He then leaves his bike unlocked like that for about a week until someone stole it. I guess it did save the thief time. Edit. He did exactly the same thing again. About 2 months after his first bike was stolen he left another bike out unlocked for weeks and it was stolen. Edit. No one is going to read this, but heck me, he did it a third time.